Afghanistan. The name itself evokes images of rugged mountains, fierce warriors, and a history soaked in the blood of empires. It is a land where the echoes of past battles still resonate, and the spirit of resistance is woven into the very fabric of its culture. For centuries, this landlocked nation at the heart of Asia has been a coveted prize for conquerors, a strategic crossroads linking east and west. Its position has made it a focal point for trade, culture, and, unfortunately, conflict. From Alexander the Great to the British Empire, history is littered with the ghosts of armies that sought to tame Afghanistan, only to be broken upon its unyielding spirit. Each invader left behind a legacy of struggle and defiance, a testament to the resilience of the Afghan people. These failures have earned Afghanistan a chilling title, the Graveyard of Empires. This moniker is not just a reflection of its past, but a warning to those who underestimate the challenges of conquering this formidable land. This essay will explore the military history of Afghanistan, focusing on its recent conflicts with the Soviet Union and the United States. These modern superpowers, like their predecessors, found themselves entangled in a complex web of resistance and resilience. Afghanistan's story is not just one of invasion and resistance, it is a testament to the indomitable will of a people who have defended their homeland against overwhelming odds, time and again. Their resilience is a beacon of hope and a reminder of the human spirit's capacity to endure. It is a story of faith and ferocity, of ancient traditions clashing with modern warfare. The juxtaposition of traditional Afghan culture with the advanced military technology of invaders highlights the unique challenges faced by both sides. It is a story that holds vital lessons for understanding the complexities of conflict, the limits of military power, and the enduring human cost of war. The scars of these conflicts are etched into the landscape and the hearts of its people. The landscape of Afghanistan, dominated by the towering Hindu Kush mountains, has played a pivotal role in shaping its destiny. These mountains are not just geographical features, but symbols of the country's strength and resilience. These mountains, crisscrossed by narrow passes and hidden valleys, have provided natural fortresses for Afghan fighters throughout history. They have used this terrain to their advantage, turning the land into a formidable ally against invaders. The rugged terrain has often neutralized the technological superiority of invading armies, forcing them to fight on the Afghans' terms. This natural defense mechanism has been a crucial factor in the country's ability to resist foreign domination. This geographical advantage, combined with the Afghans' fierce independence and deep-seated distrust of foreign powers, has made Afghanistan an exceptionally difficult country to conquer and control. The Afghan people's unwavering commitment to their sovereignty has been a constant thorn in the side of would-be conquerors. Throughout its long and turbulent history, Afghanistan has witnessed countless battles and uprisings. Each conflict has added a new chapter to its storied past, a past marked by both tragedy and triumph. It has been invaded, occupied, and liberated, only to be drawn back into the vortex of conflict. This cycle of invasion and resistance has shaped the nation's identity and forged a people who are both proud and resilient. Yet through it all, the Afghan people have clung tenaciously to their independence, their culture, and their way of life. Their cultural heritage is a source of strength and pride, a beacon of continuity amidst the chaos of war. They have fought for their freedom with a determination that has inspired awe and admiration, even among their enemies. This unyielding spirit is the true essence of Afghanistan, a land where the past and present are inextricably linked in a continuous struggle for sovereignty and peace. To understand why Afghanistan has been so fiercely contested throughout history, one must grasp its unique geopolitical significance. This landlocked country, with its rugged terrain and diverse ethnic groups, has always been more than just a piece of land. It has been a gateway, a bridge, and a battleground for various empires and nations. Situated at the crossroads of Central Asia, South Asia, and the Middle East, Afghanistan has long been a vital link between East and West. Its position has made it a melting pot of cultures, languages, and religions, contributing to its rich and complex history. Its strategic location along ancient trade routes, such as the Silk Road, made it a hub for commerce and cultural exchange. Merchants from China, India, Persia, and beyond would traverse its rugged mountains and arid plains, bringing with them goods, ideas, and innovations that would shape civilizations. This strategic importance has, however, made Afghanistan a coveted prize for empires seeking to expand their influence and control vital trade arteries. From the ancient Persians to the Mongols, and later the British and Soviets, Many have tried to dominate this land, often underestimating the resilience of its people. The British Empire, during its imperial heyday, recognized Afghanistan's strategic importance and fought 3 wars to secure its northern border with British India. These conflicts, known as the Anglo-Afghan Wars, were marked by fierce resistance from Afghan tribes in a harsh, unforgiving landscape. These wars, marked by bloody battles and cunning diplomacy, ultimately failed to subdue Afghanistan completely. The British, despite their military might and resources, could not maintain a lasting control over the region. The British learned, at a heavy cost, that controlling Afghanistan was far easier said than done. The rugged terrain, combined with the fierce independence of its people, made it a quagmire for any foreign power attempting to impose its will. The legacy of these imperial struggles left a deep scar on the Afghan psyche, fueling a deep-seated suspicion of foreign powers that persists to this day. This historical memory has shaped Afghanistan's national identity and its approach to foreign intervention. In the 20th century, Afghanistan found itself caught in the crosshairs of the Cold War. The global struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union brought new challenges and conflicts to the region. The Soviet Union, eager to expand its sphere of influence, saw Afghanistan as a stepping stone to the warm waters of the Indian Ocean. Control over Afghanistan would provide the Soviets with a strategic advantage in the region. The United States, determined to contain Soviet expansion, viewed Afghanistan as a crucial battleground in the global struggle against communism. This led to a complex web of alliances and proxy wars that would have lasting repercussions. This Cold War rivalry transformed Afghanistan into a proxy battlefield, setting the stage for the Soviet invasion in 1979 and, decades later, the US-led intervention in 2001. The involvement of these superpowers brought immense suffering to the Afghan people and further complicated the region's politics. The Soviet Union's decision to invade Afghanistan in 1979 was a watershed moment in the country's history. It marked the beginning of a prolonged and devastating conflict that would reshape Afghanistan and its place in the world. The invasion triggered a brutal conflict that would last for over a decade, claiming the lives of countless Afghans and leaving the country in ruins. The war not only devastated Afghanistan's infrastructure but also its social fabric. It also marked the beginning of a new chapter in Afghan resistance, one that would see the Afghan mujahideen, armed and funded by the US and its allies, inflict a humiliating defeat on a superpower. This resistance movement would later have far-reaching consequences, influencing global geopolitics and the future of Afghanistan. The Soviet Union, under the leadership of Leonid Brezhnev, sent its 40th Army into Afghanistan on December 24, 1979. This marked the beginning of a conflict that would drag on for nearly a decade, embroiling the Soviet military in a quagmire that would have far-reaching consequences. The invasion, launched under the pretext of supporting a beleaguered communist government in Kabul, was met with fierce resistance from the Afghan people. The Afghan populace, fiercely independent and deeply rooted in their cultural and religious traditions, saw the Soviet forces as foreign invaders and occupiers. The Soviets, confident in their military superiority, underestimated the challenges posed by the Afghan terrain and the tenacity of the Afghan resistance. The rugged mountains, deep valleys, and harsh climate of Afghanistan created a formidable natural fortress that the Soviets were ill-prepared to conquer. They were walking into a conflict that would become their Vietnam. Just as the United States had struggled in the jungles of Southeast Asia, the Soviet Union found itself mired in a war where traditional military tactics were rendered ineffective. The Soviet strategy in Afghanistan was initially based on a swift military victory. They believed that by quickly securing key urban centers and major communication lines, they could crush the resistance and stabilize the country under a pro-Soviet regime. They aimed to secure major cities and communication lines, hoping to crush the resistance quickly. However, the reality on the ground was far more complex and challenging than the Soviet planners had anticipated. However, the Afghan mujahideen, drawn from various ethnic groups and united by their faith and their determination to expel the invaders, had other plans. These fighters, motivated by a deep sense of nationalism and religious duty, were prepared to wage a long and brutal war of attrition. They waged a relentless guerrilla war against the Soviet forces, utilizing their knowledge of the terrain to their advantage. The Mujahideen's intimate familiarity with the mountainous landscape allowed them to launch surprise attacks and then vanish into the rugged terrain, leaving the Soviet forces frustrated and demoralized. The Soviets, bogged down in a protracted conflict, found themselves facing an enemy they could not defeat and a war they could not win. The longer the conflict dragged on, the more it drained Soviet resources and morale. The mujahideen, though outmatched in firepower and technology, were masters of guerrilla warfare. Their ability to adapt and improvise made them a formidable adversary for the Soviet forces, who were more accustomed to conventional warfare. They operated in small, mobile units, launching surprise attacks on Soviet convoys, outposts, and supply lines. These hit-and-run tactics kept the Soviet forces off balance and constantly on the defensive. They knew the mountains like the back of their hands, using their intimate knowledge of the terrain to ambush Soviet patrols and disappear into the rugged landscape. This ability to blend into the environment made it nearly impossible for the Soviets to mount effective counterattacks. The Soviets, accustomed to fighting conventional wars, were ill-prepared for this type of warfare. Their training and equipment were designed for large-scale battles, not the hit-and-run tactics of guerrilla fighters. Their tanks and heavy artillery proved largely ineffective in the narrow valleys and steep mountainsides of Afghanistan. The terrain negated much of the technological advantage that the Soviet forces had, rendering their heavy weaponry cumbersome and often useless. The Soviet invasion had a devastating impact on Afghanistan. The relentless bombing and shelling reduced cities and villages to rubble, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Cities and villages were reduced to rubble, millions were displaced from their homes, and the country's infrastructure was shattered. The human cost of the conflict was staggering, with countless lives lost and communities torn apart. The war also had a profound impact on the Soviet Union itself, exacerbating its economic woes and eroding public support for the conflict. The financial burden of the war strained the Soviet economy, contributing to the eventual collapse of the Soviet state. The images of Soviet soldiers returning home in body bags, defeated by a ragtag army of Afghan fighters, dealt a severe blow to the Soviet Union's image as a superpower. The war in Afghanistan became a symbol of Soviet decline, a stark reminder of the limits of military power in the face of determined resistance.